So yes, I'm Dave Anderson. I'm the Global Alliance Director from Equinix that manages our alliance with Microsoft. And today I'm going to talk about how Platform Equinix can accelerate your cloud workloads and your journey to the cloud. And those headsets are so cool. So this is like the slide of death. I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to tell you that if you think about what, and I'll let you read this, if you think about what Forrester said here, that your success to your cloud ecosystem is really dependent upon your connections to that ecosystem, how that ecosystem is interconnected, and without that, your cloud's not going to perform where you need it to perform. And this is where Equinix comes in, because we couldn't agree more. So interconnection is what makes the whole cloud world work, and it really makes the whole world work. If you think about it, if you look about all through all these stands here at Future Decoded today, all of them mention the cloud, all of them talk about, we have a lot of AI focus, all this sort of good stuff. But guess what? None of that stuff is going to work well unless it's interconnected and talking to other applications, other clouds, your own premises, all this good stuff. And if it's not doing that in a low latency, high performance environment, it's not going to have the glue to perform where your enterprise or your customers or clients need it to perform. And thus, interconnection is what makes the digital world work. So to compete in the digital economy, they need to not just be digital enterprises, but digital interconnected enterprises, right? With ecosystems out there are all working with each other, talking to multiple clouds, talking to multiple applications, talking to multiple objects in different applications. There's a lot of connections going on. And so that means we need to re-architect IT from the edge in. So we need to move from a siloed and fixed environment like we see here that traditionally IT and enterprises have developed in over the years, where it's just this is a supply chain example, to an integrating dynamic one where all these things are talking to each other and they're very dynamic. And so one of the ways you can do that, Equinix can help you transform that with an interconnection-oriented architecture, which means that you're putting more things out in different places and connecting them. But we'll talk about that in a second. I don't want to lose you here. So interconnection increases value and lowers costs. If you look at this, connecting people, locations, clouds, and data, it's going to, you can see, I'm not going to read this slide, thank goodness, but this has an effect on your business. It can bring you cost savings. It can allow you to use that cost savings to increase your use of the cloud and put more workloads in the cloud. It can make it so you can have that data closer to the cloud, highly performant, and it can make it so it all works better. What I love to tell people is that Equinix, while we are not a cloud and we're not an app, we're a platform that makes all the apps and all the clouds work better together. We have a thing called the Global Interconnection Index that we publish. Volume 2 came out last year, Volume 3 is coming out very soon, as I recall. But what this really speaks to is the idea that while we all know about the internet, we all know about MPLS, interconnection, where businesses are directly connecting to each other, to other clouds, to all sorts of other applications, is growing at a much faster pace. So private interconnection between businesses, businesses to consumers, partners to businesses, partners to partners, you name it. Look at it, it's expected to grow 48% to 8,200 terabits per second over the next 5 years. That's huge, right? I mean, with the expansion we heard today during the keynote, we heard basically the Moore's law of data now, which is that the volume of data is basically doubling every 2 years, going across networks. When that happens, what we depend on then is network bandwidth and that ability to be interconnected to all those places where the data goes. So with that, I think I'd finally get around to who is Equinix, right? And I wanted to do this in a perception versus reality method because I've been doing this for a few years now, working with Microsoft for a long time, and there's misperceptions about Equinix. A lot of people think, oh, Equinix is that big global data center provider. Yes and no. We are, but reality says we are the global interconnection platform. We are a platform. We're really the trusted center of a cloud-first world. If you think about all the major cloud providers and the minor cloud providers connect to us, work with us, are sitting in our data centers, in 200 plus data centers in over 24 countries. You know, the Microsoft cloud actually sits in 61 of our data centers. Pieces of it, right? So that's huge. So that puts us in a position to bring those workloads closer to the cloud, bring them to the cloud, and enable your workloads to work better in the cloud. Sometimes we also get the idea, well, if you're a data center provider, don't you compete with the cloud providers like Microsoft and those others who shall be named later? No. Answer straightforward, no. The cloud service providers are critical to our business. We're all in on Azure. We know that enterprises are moving to the cloud, but they're also moving infrastructure closer to the cloud that can't go in the cloud. They're using infrastructure to make it so those clouds work better for them and for their end customers and end users. That's critical. We'll talk a little bit about the Equinix Cloud Exchange Fabric here in a second, but that's what makes it really work well. And just since we're at a Microsoft show, I had to kind of throw this in here, right? Working with Microsoft is our thing, right? You'll hear a lot of the Microsoft folks talking about migrating apps to Azure, new apps and modernizing existing apps. And our thing with them is network optimization to make those new apps and those existing apps work a lot better in the cloud and work better for your end users, your customers, your partners who need to use them. So who is Equinix? If you look at this, you're going to think that looks a lot like Azure. It is. This is the Azure footprint, okay? I want to use this to illustrate why we're so critical to Microsoft and Microsoft is critical to us. So if that's all the Azure regions as they exist in the world today, now I'm going to layer on Azure ExpressRoute that's hosted in Equinix data centers. ExpressRoute is Microsoft's private networking service that runs through our Equinix Cloud Exchange that allows you to have a private, highly secure, highly performant connection directly from your business to the Azure cloud. Now, if you notice how nicely this overlays the Azure regions, right? We are where Azure is. Now, this is our Equinix Cloud Exchange Fabric locations that are outside of the ExpressRoute regions, but the great thing about Cloud Exchange is it interconnects, and it interconnects via our backbone so that if you want to use, let's just choose one here. You want to use the Azure region in Paris, but you're in Warsaw or thereabouts. You can jump on the Equinix Cloud Exchange Fabric with a single port, provision your virtual circuits, provision your Azure ExpressRoute circuit to Paris, and we're carrying you on Paris on our Cloud Exchange Fabric on our backbone to the ExpressRoute node in Paris directly into Azure on a highly performant, up to a 10 gig circuit to get your data back and forth across that secure network. So we extend Azure where Azure isn't today through that. And that makes Azure more available, more workable through interconnection to all those folks that maybe aren't sitting right next to the Azure cloud, which last I checked is actually most of us. So who is Equinix? Let's look at, this is our locations around the world. We're expanding all the time in terms of where Cloud Exchange is going to interconnect you. Check back with us often. This changes frequently. But let's just say Microsoft chose us for ExpressRoute because we are the only global provider. We're everywhere, we have a global reach, global footprint, and we're the most network dense data centers in the world. We invented interconnection really, and we lead the world in interconnection. So Microsoft chose us to be their leading ExpressRoute partner because of that. I don't know, I was there, I did it. Anyway. And we have a proven track record of interconnecting ecosystems. We came about in 1998 because our founders saw a need when the internet was in its infancy, at least as a public entity, to interconnect all these various networks. Started to create an ecosystem. And then content providers who were putting things on the internet started coming to us and saying, hey, if you're connecting all these guys, wouldn't it make sense for us to be closer to you? And then we started to see ecosystems emerge, actually starting with financial services. The financial services came into our facilities, including stock exchanges, high-speed traders, high-frequency trading, where network performance was really important. And so we started building an ecosystem around that. And then other segments followed, and then after that came the cloud providers, saying, hey, if you've got all this interconnection to all these providers, and we want all those guys to use our cloud, wouldn't it make sense for us to be connected to you guys? And so now we've built this rich ecosystem where all these folks, enterprises, businesses, and all you hundreds of people in the audience, that's just kind of, can interconnect and get to the cloud providers, the service providers, and everybody else you need to get to as if they were sitting on your own backbone. So the Equinix Cloud Exchange Fabric. The Equinix Cloud Exchange Fabric is essentially it's a network switching fabric that we've built and developed that allows you with a single port, as I said before, on our Cloud Exchange, to interconnect with multiple clouds. We have over 400, I think at last count, 400 different providers on our Cloud Exchange around the world. It includes all the big cloud guys, it includes smaller managed service providers, it includes enterprises that you can connect to, and by spinning up virtual circuits, you can interconnect and connect to all these guys. Some of the things that you can actually do would be like, let's say you need to migrate some VMware off AWS into Azure, which Microsoft would really like. You can do it through Cloud Exchange. You can move data back and forth through Cloud Exchange, very easy around multiple providers. You can start to write your own software using these to say, hey, I've got some stuff out here in let's say ServiceNow that I want to do some work on with Azure and I want to connect it to something else. Well, you can bring that all together with Cloud Exchange. And this really puts us, as I've said, at the center of a cloud-first world. So you can see there's a few other big logos on here. By law, I'm forbidden to name them in this room anyway. So, and I just want to warn everybody, I'm going to go till like 9 o'clock tonight. No, I'm not really. It's just to see if you're listening. So, network transformation leadership. It's one of the things that really has endeared us with Microsoft and with our customers, is being able to really get in there, optimize people's networks to work better with the cloud applications they're trying to run. And that way we can accelerate their digital transformation and their journey to the cloud. We're hybrid cloud experts, all right? You know, a lot of people think of hybrid cloud, and you'll see a lot of diagrams that shows some stuff on premises and this cloud out here, and there's like this arrow going between them going, yeah, hey, it all just works, right? No, that arrow is really important. And in fact, oftentimes you want to take it from on-premise closer to the cloud. And that's where we come in, where you can sit that infrastructure, you can sit that data, you can sit those legacy pieces of application in a place that's close to the cloud, interconnected with Cloud Exchange, run it on highly performant, low latency networks, and it works great, trust me. Then finally, as we say, cloud adjacency really accelerates the consumption of the cloud, your use of the cloud, by making it cloud adjacent. And we do this a lot of times where people have data that may be sensitive, they don't want to put it all in the cloud, but they want to be able to use the compute of the cloud against that data. Cloud adjacency, move it closer to the cloud in an Equinix data center, connect it up via network, and you've just achieved that. And the other thing about Equinix is we have the professional services to help you do that in every way. So our Equinix professional services is availability to do cloud transformation workshops, to look at your current plans and see how we can help you, to look at network optimization. What's your current network look like, and how can we help you optimize it based on the business you want to do in the cloud? And finally, we can actually get in there and do the heavy lifting. If it's even just making sure that ECX and ExpressRoute are configured to run together well, we'll do that too. We are one of the 10 launch partners that Microsoft named in their new Azure Networking Managed Services program last July. Watch this space, more to come on that, but we'll be able to be, you'll be able to actually find us in the Azure Marketplace and just request that we come do something for you right there, and it'll just happen. But that's coming, we're not quite there yet. You know, undersell, you know, over provide. So finally, we have these small little aspirations. We just want to reach everywhere, interconnect everyone, and integrate everything. But that's not really an aspiration, it's what we do today, all right? And through products like our Cloud Exchange, through our Network Edge services, which you can look up and come to our booth over there behind this booth, we can give you all sorts of information on how we can help you get your cloud really running great, optimized. We are the center of a cloud-first world. We are what makes the cloud work, and I don't care what cloud you're using. I'm just going to make that statement. We are what makes the cloud work.